I'd like to talk about mechanical adjustments on the machine. We've got a eject pin, a push pin if you will, that is attached to a air cylinder. And when we set these up here at the factory, we've got we put our drag blocks in place, and we've got this little I guess you could call it a pin gauge. It's about 170 thousandths thick. Now you could use a 11/64 drill bit. It's 172 thousandths, which should work just fine. And what we're looking for is a pretty snug fit between the back side of the drag blocks and the front of the push pin. Now here is a drag block housing that's empty. There's no drag blocks in it. We do have a just want to be able to get you to see a little better. It's a hole that is bored through the center of it for the push pin to go through, and this also has a groove for our fiber optics to look through. And so we're measuring from the tip of the push pin to the back side of these drag blocks. Now to adjust this, I don't know how well you can see, but there is a notch in our push pin. The notch gets lined up with the set screw hole on our push pin holder. So these together are kind of a unit, and there's a jam nut goes behind this push pin holder. So if you simply loosen up the jam nut and spin this whole assembly in or out on the cylinder shaft, you'll get your different adjustment on where the end is. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. So you just simply crack that nut loose, move this whole assembly in or out, and then retighten this so that way you have your desired distance out. Now once you have that distance out, it's a good idea to check your backstop adjustment. Now the way that we do that is I've got the mandrel here. I'm going to slide this slide unit all the way up against the back of the head, and the O-ring that we're running, I'm going to place it right up tight against the shoulder like that. Now I push, taking this, pushing it right in against the tip of the push pin, and I start to slide this thing back, and it hooks in, and you make sure that you have it where it's hooked and it's pulled all the way apart. There will end up being a slight gap between the push pin and the tip of the mandrel as it normally pulls back. And I pull this all the way against the till it stops. Pull it all the way forward, and then I observe where this O-ring is at in relationship to this back wall. Now this is actually a little bit on the far side. So if I wanted to, now this is probably 75 thousandths, and normally I like to see right around a 32nd of an inch there, about 30 thousandths. So what I do is there's a jam nut on the back side here. See if I can show you. There it is. We're going to loosen up that jam nut there with a 5/8 wrench and adjust this. We want it to not go as far back, so we're going to move it this direction a little bit. We'll just snug that up, and we'll check with the same procedure again. So I will once again put this right up against the shoulder. Hook it in, make sure it's pulled apart, all the way to the back, all the way forward. Okay, now this looks much better. We've got about 30 to 40 thousandths there. That looks a lot more realistic. So now that we have our mechanicals set, I should mention on ASP2, this little shock It has it's an adjustable shock. We typically set them up at 4, and there's a very tiny little Allen set screw on the back end of it, which locks it into place. If for some reason yours is loose, that's what you want to set it to, is 4. All right. Now that we have the mechanical aspect of this adjusted, we want to check our Hall effect. Now with the power, I just turned the power on. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. Maybe I'll lower this down. Okay. Anyway, the front Hall effect is illuminated right now. How good you can see it. Anyway, we want the front one to kick on about 30 thousandths from the end of the stroke, and then the one in the when you slide this all the way to the back. See, now that we've adjusted this forward, it no longer trips the Hall effect sensor. So now we're going to have to loosen up the clamp, and that takes a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. Loosen this up, and we'll have to adjust this forward just a little bit, because we've also adjusted our, now you can see it just, we want it to kick on right as it's within 30 thousandths of the end, almost touching the end here. And we'll snug this up. There we go. So now we have our Hall effect sensor adjusted as per our new setting. And